So, as per Joe, I've not got anything prepared. As questions, I'm just going to let it flow. Dan is with us because Dan's great at asking questions. And Dan has got some questions prepared. So, Ola, thank you so much for coming on my small channel.
Thank you so much for having me, Joe. I absolutely welcome the opportunity, and I'm just as unprepared as you. So,
well, your excuse is you've been doing a ton of podcasts, haven't you? You've been really busy. You've become really popular.
Well, I've been very lucky, and it's been an amazing time. You know, I'm gonna drop a bomb here. You know, I find it really stressful. So I don't have my own channel. I actually am dreading every single time I have to. I'm coming on, but of course, you know, this is the only way to kind of get some message out. And I absolutely I've had an amazing time with the people who were so kind to have me, and I'm so grateful for this invite as well.
Okay, so my internet went off then, guys. Look at the little intro has said. So what I was saying, Ola, is before my internet went off, is I came across you with Logan, and I really resonated with what you were saying about the inversions, and rather than going to the light, we go down. And it made absolute sense, you know, because if we're thinking about this world of inversion, when we're born into the light, which is exactly what you were saying. So that's one of the things that I really resonate with, because this journey that me and Dan have recently connected a good few months ago, and we've been on this Gnostic journey, if you like, and we're realizing that we want to get the hell out of here. We're realizing that this whole transhuman agenda is about trapping the souls, putting us further and further into matter to trap us into this capsule, if you like, if that's what you want to call it. Yeah. So I don't know what conversation you and Dan were having and I was rudely interrupted and cut off, but if you want to have a quick discussion about that and see.
Yeah, I just want to jump in. So you've talked about Inanna, the Underworld, which I find fascinating, because that's the Sumerian text, which is the only text that have the rule of the Underworld as the feminine, where all the rest of them are always been masculine. And it's interesting that the Inanna went through the 7 gates, and obviously she stripped her powers at each gate she entered to get to the Underworld, where she ended up at the Underworld naked. Where everybody else talks about the spheres, the gates that the archons control above, going upwards. And I just want you to elaborate more on obviously the underworld stuff.
Sure. So, well, first of all, you know, I think the biggest problem in terms of interpretation of the ancient text, the Gnostic text, and of course, you know, there are several layers or perhaps several qualities or several lens into these texts to actually interpret them. And very often when scholars work with them, with the kind of people of science, if you like, they don't really have the tools, or they don't even have the belief in certain levels, such as astrology, astrotheology, right? So and there are different layers. There's biology, there is gematria, there is alchemy. This is the key, okay? And alchemy, and mind you, not the masculine alchemy, the feminine alchemy. So the alchemy of a woman, which is one of the major I wouldn't say even forgotten lores that we used to have, but it is on purpose eradicated. This wisdom has been eradicated with the witches, with the wise women of the past, burnt at the stake. So when you actually dig a little bit, you see my background is someone who's been exposed to a little bit by culture to certain sort of ethnic culture kind of based old wisdom. And right now I live in the Arctic, so of course I have the indigenous people of this region to sort of fall back on. But even when you look through legends, mythology of a variety of geographies, I am very much also there with the Cathars and those messages, which obviously again butchered by by the official agenda, by the official narrative. When you sort of dive in through those different legends, mythologies, even fairy tales, and then finally the ancient texts, everything is inverted. So assigning the underworld to a masculine deity or some kind of masculine representation is an inversion of the original teaching. Underworld belongs to the feminine. There is no entry to the underworld to a male, which is clearly represented in the alchemical teachings, in the legends, in fairy tales, etc., and finally in the Inanna descent to the underworld, right? Whereby, like you mentioned in a lot of other accounts, there is the Hades and the kind of masculine representation. That is already the patriarchal stamp on the original story. The very big problem that we're dealing with is that most of the ancient texts, including the Bible, including the even the Enuma Elish, even the story of Inanna, even Inanna itself, okay, the descent of Inanna, which, by the way, there are different versions, but it's been already tampered with. It's been already changed to suit the agenda, and the agenda is the patriarchy, right? Which is, I think, we don't have to argue about whether that's a fact or not. So when you look into, for example, archaeology from the past, and I'm talking not just a few thousand years back, we're talking 20, 40,000 years ago and more, we find very, very clear evidence that this cultural and the social context back in the day, in the very old day, was not patriarchy. And I don't want to call it matriarchy. I would rather call it reverence of the feminine. So there is a very, very clear message, which is that the shamanic kind of context. And if you really strip down even the shamanic teachings from the masculine influence, from that distortion, the original shamans were women. And of course, you know, everybody probably is aware of the shamanic journeys. The underworld shows up there. So the original sort of ownership, or perhaps the original gender associated with that plane is the woman. So these are the women. And Inanna's journey, even in the descent to the underworld, even in that epic, we already have we're already dealing with sort of that story being a little bit distorted. So the 7 gates, and she's undressing and she's taking off garments and sort of pieces of clothing, etc., arriving in the underworld naked. We're not talking about physical nudity here. We are talking about something totally different. And I have a webinar on my website which explains exactly what is the nudity about, what is the going through those gates about. And those gates have nothing to do with literally physical
taking off clothing.
Absolutely. So what is she taking off? This is literally the journey to dismantle from the matrix. Okay, so the 7 sort of layers is about disconnecting from different levels of programming. And very interesting thing, another sort of alchemical journey that is very much associated with women, and those teachings are well, they can be found as well, echo in the legends, etc., is the journey to the moon. Okay, which is interesting.
I want to talk about the moon because it's very interesting to Dan as well.
So the interesting thing is that we obviously had to put a man on the moon as well, right? But that's another story. But why am I talking about the moon? Because in alchemy, and even, you know, back in Poland, we have a legend about one sort of alchemist traveling to the moon. Long story, but the point is there's always number 7. And the moon is also associated with 7 sort of levels, whereby our programming is sort of buried under. So the moon holds some of the keys, and the untangling, the the sort of process of literally leaving the matrix, if you want. Okay, it has nothing to do with traveling to the Antarctic or sort of physical escape from this realm. It is to do with disconnecting from the programming, disconnecting from the matrix on a bit different level. And the underworld has never been compromised by the matrix, by the construct. So the underworld is untouchable. There is a bit of an alchemical meaning to it, because the underworld has that connotation to a certain space within a woman, of course, within the Holy Grail, within the womb, which is that, well, it could be called the Dantian, right? But it's then understood a little bit more energetically, whereas we're talking not purely in a energetic sense, but we're talking in that alchemical sense. So that point, the point of innocence, the virgin point, something untouched, something that has not been corrupted by the matrix, by the archons, by the programming, or by any other means that they might be using to try to sort of gain access there. The same is reflected in the underworld. So I'm not saying that the only way out would have been the underworld, but there is definitely no way out going up, because like you've mentioned, you're gonna go through the PC Sophia, right? You're gonna go through the layers, you're gonna go through the aeons, and you're gonna come back through the reincarnation cycle. As the Hermetica, the Hermetic text, they say you're gonna be indefinitely thrown between heaven and earth, right? This is what happens when you go down, when you don't know. So some of the Cathars, the teachings of the feminine line were always talking about taking off the shackles of this matrix. Every woman needed to make a journey to the underworld, and so did a man. So did a man. So that was really the kind of escape route to take off what? The net, age of Pisces, right? For example, why is the Pope, why does he wear the headpiece like the head of the fish? Because he's a fisherman. He's the fisher of man. He's using the net to kind of cast and catch the souls into the net. So there is a net which is placed upon us, and you see, this is that symbology of Inanna journey to the underworld. As she unwraps herself from different garments, she's effectively taking off the net. But the net is obviously sort of different layers of that programming and that matrix influence. This is why, for example, in the legends, in a lot of legends, you have the sirens, right? The kind of half women, half fish. And in most of those legends, what happens in those stories, in those fairy tales, when they are caught in the net by a fisherman, right? He obviously wants to negotiate with them. They are beautiful. They want to keep them. So what happens? She asks to be released. And she says that if you don't release me, I'm gonna die. What kind of death are we talking about? Physical? This is the allegory of the spiritual death by being caught in the net, in the matrix. So journey to the underworld is literally that way, that liberation path whereby, and you see, it is reflected in the shamanic teachings, as in the shaman journeys to the underworld to recover fragmented pieces of the soul. So to make you whole, the soul needs to be recovered. So there is an echo of that story, even in the shamanic teachings. But the original story, as per the feminine alchemy, goes that we are sort of taking the journey to the underworld, to that plane, to that plane which is outside of the influence and control of the matrix, in order to regain, to literally take off the shackles and reconnect with the soul, to really be able to. So this is that symbolic death, okay? And Jesus dying on the cross very, very interesting motive, because originally, and you know very well that this is not some kind of original motive. It repeats itself throughout different geographies. So we have the death of Osiris, we have death of Dumuzi, and Inanna's assisting there, Isis assisting with Osiris, Mary Magdalene assisting with Jesus. Why is there always woman? Why is woman always involved? Why is woman always there at the death of man and resurrection? All of those resurrected, woman always present. Why? Where are they going after they die? The underworld, right? The death originally in those stories, Osiris, Dionysus, or from Babylonian Dumuzi and Inanna, the death was not physical. The death has been made into physical death when it comes to Jesus. So the church has twisted the story a little bit, and obviously the narrative has been a little bit tampered with, very much, not a little bit, not to mention that the cross itself is very, very symbolic as well. So that narrative has been tampered with, and now we're dealing with, you know, looking at certain symbols and certain events and not really being able to understand what's the meaning, what's the point. Well, the point is that the church comes in and sort of turns it into a macabre, right? So adds that element of literally physical death, but it's not a physical death. This is why when he's taken off the cross, he's taken into where? Into the womb of the earth.
Tomb, yeah.
Right?
I have to say,
So,
I know nothing about the underworld, and I'm mind blown right now. So I'm just going to sit here and let you tell the conversation until.
so when you say it's not a physical death, are you talking about energy? So it's the masculine energy that's died, which then the feminine energy then resurrects it to balance.
I wouldn't say the energies. It's not the masculine, feminine energy. To be honest with you, I don't even use those
terms.
Those terms. I stick to the man and woman. But what dies, and mind you, the woman needs to undergo the same process. So this is not only for men. This is not reserved for men. However, what needs to die is that. It is the resurrection from the spiritual death, and the spiritual death is a result of us being caught in the matrix net. So disconnection from the soul.
Can I just ask, when you talk about the resurrection of the spiritual death, does that mean when we have a spiritual death, we are freed from this matrix, or we come back into this matrix as a physical being?
Well, it's you see, this is really the crux of this question that's always being asked: how do you leave the matrix? I think we have to understand, what does it mean to leave the matrix? I think that a lot of people ascribe the meaning of leaving the matrix, exiting the matrix, in a physical way, right? Like suddenly somehow you are going to be living outside of the matrix. Like physically, no, the matrix is not physical. The matrix is a sort of way of programming, right? So we're dealing with frequencies being streamed upon us, and the antenna, the third eye, the pineal gland picks up on the frequencies, and it kind of translates it into certain frequencies and experience. This is what we see, right? We are trapped in a visible light spectrum. We are our experience is very, very limited, and that obviously includes everything that goes with it. But we are programmed from the construct to experience certain reality. So how do you leave that reality? Well, you have to literally unsubscribe from that programming. So that spiritual death is the fact that our soul is not free here. Our soul is trapped by that net, okay, like fishermen of men, fishermen, the net, the so it is literally the net that's been put upon us, which causes the spiritual death. Spiritual as in the soul is kind of fragmented. We are.
I see what you mean. Sorry, I see what you mean. In this vessel is a spiritual death. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I misunderstood.
And
yeah.
then And then the process of resurrection is the process literally of leaving this matrix, of disconnecting from this programming, so that you, most importantly, stop being stop having that link, that deterministic link that astrology, for example, can predict, right? Because astrology, you see, this is probably big heretic thing for me to say, but astrology is nothing good, nothing positive. It is what it is, okay? It's just it's mathematics, okay? It's an interpretation code, but of what? Of something positive? No.
But
okay,
I know you talk a lot about, our blueprint is the astrology. I started reading a book from a guy, well, saying a guy, an old occultist from the 1800s called Francis Barrett, and the first chapter is about how we are tied to our astrological charts, and basically we don't need to be tied to the astrological charts. And a wise man isn't tied to the astrology. I paraphrase, I can't remember exactly. I was meant to read it, but because I've been so rushed. So is there a way that we can break free from our astrological chart? Because I know the brainwashing so many people, oh, I'm reading my astrology, and of course I had an astrological reading because I'm keen to know about me. But in actual fact, me knowing about me is amplifying my tie to that blueprint, when actually I don't want to be tied to that blueprint, because that's the trap. So I want to break free. So how would one break free from that blueprint? Is it possible?
So literally what I meant with this resurrection, that is the way of overcoming those influences. Because I think it's worth just mentioning, right, for the record, that my take on astrology, and I am an astrologer, so hey, I've been kind of shunned by the community because I don't subscribe to the original narrative. Astrology is not well, it is what it is, but it's not describing a positive phenomena, okay? So what I have discovered, what I have established, is that our chart, and it doesn't matter if it's astrology, numerology, everything is a code, yeah? It's a binary code. So that code represents certain data about us. And the good news is that not everything there is bad. Not everything there comes from the matrix. Some of those things are actually they representing the sort of voice of the soul, or the heart's desire, however you want to call it. Something that it's really coming from you. It's coming from that part of you which is not captured by this construct. So there is a bit of a mix going on, but I think that it's very important to know what is what, and not to follow, not to really subscribe too much to the things that are coming from the matrix, because then you are pretty much just going along with exactly what matrix planned for you. So you are literally delivering the game for them, right? So my take on it is that when we are looking at an astrology chart or numerology or whatever, we are looking at a set of symbols, parameters, some of them representing what the soul is trying to tell us here, most of them representing in what way the matrix is trying to program you, traumatize you, block you, stop you, in order for you not to step into that potential. Why not? Because it's a threat. Because
the soul would be the intuition. The soul would be the intuition of
absolutely. So obviously, we don't come in here and become suddenly disconnected from any divine source, or however we want to call it, right? We still have that connection. This is why we are so attractive for them, because they are harvesting our energy, right? So we still have this connection. However, matrix is going to impose certain things upon you to prevent you, or at best to delay you from stepping into and remembering all those kind of, how do I reconnect with that intuition? How do I reconnect with that voice of the soul? How do I dare to walk that path, right? Because very often, exactly the programming that you're going to receive, that kind of part of your code that you're going to receive, is going to be directly blocking the very talent and the very potential that you carry. It is designed you know, it's like a perfect fit, like a glove. So and I've seen it many times. So this is why it's so difficult for us to, you know, we end up doing jobs that we can, that it's not too bad, but you know, how many people really dare to go after what your dream is, what your passion is, right? That's where it kind of gets a little bit icky and scary and uncomfortable. That's the programming, that's the problem. And of course, as we get older, and a lot of us, mind you, not everybody, but some people will kind of feel, hold on a minute, this doesn't make sense, I'm really burnt out. Somebody will have some negative experience or an accident or whatever, and some of those people will literally wake up and start walking a different path, and their life changes. But majority of the population, and you know it, they will be on this treadmill forever.
Yeah.
So this is a different view on astrology, including the fact that I refuse to propagate the view that we are here at the soul level before incarnation, choosing some kind of challenges, some kind of lessons that are designed to make us grow. That's simply a, you know, this is the kind of view that the slaves would adopt in order to seek nobility in suffering. That's
Rosicrucian. That's where the Rosicrucians, they think they could take to school where your soul's got to learn to grow. But
right.
this is my problem is because we're such powerful beings outside, why are we here to grow in the human experience when we're beyond that human experience?
It's a story that we've been sold, and people subscribe to it because, you know, it's unfortunately, it's a human nature that people want to know that there is a purpose in everything. There is a purpose in suffering. There is a purpose in me having tough life. There is a purpose, and the purpose is growth, right? Because what other purpose? There is a purpose in me going through very tough experiences, where actually the problem is we've been in Kali Yuga. And of course, our lifespan is extremely limited, so we consciously remember nothing. We don't know nothing consciously. But, you know, there was time of a golden age where nobody was traumatized, and they have the capacity to grow much more or develop, expand, and, you know, manifest and birth whatever they would like, much more compared to us who are spending half of our life, if not more, struggling with the shackles and trying to even understand what is even happening here, right? So who
do you think is enslaving us? I know we talk about the archons, but I've been reading some books from a book from Tom Montauk, and he's very much into alienology and UFOlogy, and there's a lot of parallels between yours and his work, and he's actually got a background of engineering as well. Interestingly enough, you might want to check some of his work out. And of course, he talks about the aliens. They're the ones that are in the fourth dimension, and they're the ones that are controlling us basically. And in your last, well, not in your last podcast, but the podcast that I watched earlier from We Are One, I think is called. You were talking about the technology that they have, which is the beaming in, for want of a better word, basically because we know this is a holographic realm and we are holograms. So that actually makes kind of sense that we are just fractals of light. So who is it that's controlling us? I know we've got the archons, but we've also got the aliens. What are your view on aliens?
So you see, I think that again we are going into different geographies and different stories effectively describing the same phenomena. I don't, so you see, the Gnostics will call them the archons, right? Or they will sort of explain the construct, the different layers, the different aeons, etc., etc. And that's an amazing story. Then if you look to, for example, the ancient Sumer, you have the Tiamat, Marduk, you have the Anunnaki. You look to Egypt, you have another story, but really it is the same story. You look to here up where I am in Scandinavia, you have the Norse mythology. It is the same type of beings, the same type of whatever we want to call them, archons, gods, fake gods, of course, aliens, we're those stories, those legends, pretty much everything, it doesn't matter what geography, it is describing the same. The Vedas describing the same, and very often described two fractions, right? So we have the gods, we have the giants in the Norse, for example. We have Tiamat, we have the Marduk, Anu, and that side, right? That's the Sumeria. We have the Yahweh, we have the Jehovah, right? So regardless of geography, there's always some kind of being, some kind of energy, alien, that's running the show, and I am absolutely subscribing to that. So literally they are all correct, and they are all describing the same phenomena, they are all describing the same story. So the archons are not just archons, they are not a different type of entities. It is what it is in the Sumerian story. It is the same stuff that's described in the Norse mythology and in the Inca, Maya, etc. It is literally the same type of energy, or the same type of beings, I should say. And mind you, if you look at the word Anunnaki, right? Anunnaki, that is not a name of a race per se. Anunnaki, the translation Anunnaki, came from the heaven down onto the earth. So that precisely explains the mechanism of what happened here. So we're dealing with some kind of being, some kind of race, which this is where the reptilians come in, this is where the Draco, and obviously we have the alien kind of stories here. That's what it is. That is what it is. It's just described differently depending on the text and geography. And mind you, look at the last 3 years, right? Catch a person in the street who has no idea what kind of agenda is going on, and they are going to give you a nonsense type of account of the last 3 years. And we're talking thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands, captured somewhere through oral tradition, somewhere through written tradition. Written by whom? Writing, to begin with, was not like these days that I can write, you can write, everybody can write, and of course we are up against censorship, but back in the day, writing, anything in writing, would have to be a result of getting a promoter of some kind of high level influential type of persona, who would request a scribe to write something up. So of course the story that they would have been writing up, that's, for example, happened with the Viking stories, and with the stories that pretty much all of the legends, right? They would have been captured serving certain agenda.
And it's interesting,
so this is the problem that we're navigating through.
Because one of the issues I've had through this journey, if you like, and the different podcasters that I've come across over the last 3 years, was they've all got evidence of their history. Let's take, no, I'm not going to mention names. There's a podcaster, his history is that's his history, and he's got the evidence to prove it. Everybody else is wrong, but equally they've got the evidence to prove it, their history. So it seems that there are different parallel histories running at, this is my interpretation, and I'd like your view on it, different parallel histories running at simultaneously. So we've got different accounts of a history which happened at the same time, yet people have got different interpretations of that history. So what's your take, given that what we've just been saying about everything's written? Do you subscribe with the fact that there are potentially various stories happening in different parallels? Let's take the Mandela effect as an example. Different parallels happening at the same time, and depending on where you are, what your views are, you will subscribe that, or be planted, whatever, in that particular parallel universe.
Well, I think that what you're describing is very interesting and important thing to point out, in a way that what tends to happen is that people find a certain topic interesting, or a certain geography interesting, and this is how you get the academics studying specifically this area, this time period, this dynasty, and then another one is looking over there. So everything is fragmented on purpose. what
We were
what I
talking
have
about it,
done
yeah.
is I have gone across and I had a look everywhere. So
Mm.
so I think that we are missing that kind of, you know, helicopter view on a lot of those stories. So it is not what tends to happen is this guy that has his evidence for his story is arguing that guy over there, whereas if they actually spend time looking and investigating a little bit on one another, they would find out that they're talking the same language, and it's probably they're describing absolutely the same phenomena, the same history. Of course it would have been captured in a slightly different way because of the social context, because of the geographical context, right? We have Vikings up here. You're not going to have Vikings in Sumer because the weather is different, and the tools were different, and a lot of those things were different. But hey, the beliefs, the story is the same. So I think that we need to be careful in terms of, you know, it's like pigeonhole kind of approach where people take interest in a specific story and they become experts on that, and they will really heavily defend it and try to prove to everybody else that this is correct and everything is wrong. But really what we're dealing with is lack of that unity across different stories, lack of that helicopter view. And when you bring that in, you actually see that no, it is very much the same story. And to me, you know, Mandela effect is a little bit different story altogether. It is more to do with some twitches in the matrix and the fact that
I think that's what I was trying. I think that's what I was trying to get across, like glitches in the matrix with a history, a certain event that happened, and then there was another. So basically, that history happened, then we had another version of that history happen, then like glitches in the matrix. That's what I was trying to.
But I think that, you know, the Mandela effect is mostly something that affects us now, right? So it is something we can perhaps look into living now. And I think that is more to do with them playing with literally what they are streaming and then reprogramming our brain, or kind of, you know, rewriting our memories and overlaying them with, trying to overlay with a different information. But I wouldn't necessarily extrapolate that onto the past and history, because we do not have, you know, a lot of people are very passionate about researching and investigating things and kind of swearing by certain events happening here or there, whereas can you really prove it? Can you really prove that it happened in this year, that year, and that is exactly what happened and how it happened? Because very often, again, it is based on certain
theories.
texts. Absolutely right, and
And
then
speculation. A lot of it's speculation, isn't it?
a lot of speculation. But you see, take just for example, the fact whether somebody is aware of the construct or not, and you're gonna get a totally different story. Go to an astrologer who is not aware of the matrix, the kind of more new agey ones, right? Who is not aware of the construct above, who's not aware of the ancient texts, etc., of those stories, and try to ask them to do your reading, and you will hear the story about the lessons and all the good stuff, right? So I think we have to appreciate also that, unfortunately, people are going to present you with the view to the best of their own consciousness, awareness, ability, right? So there is a lens kind of to be applied here. Just because someone researched something and came up with some conclusions, I don't know if it's 100% gospel, right? It's
Just touching back, Ola, when you're talking about there was a golden age beforehand, people obviously lived a lot longer, and I've looked into Peter Sophia, and some people believe that she's reincarnated onto this plane many a times, like people like Aphrodite's, Mary Magdalene is also people associated with Sophia energy being Mary Magdalene, and one of them was actually I don't know if you've looked into Saint Anne, was actually Jesus's grandmother, and she actually in the story she actually lived for 600 years, and that just shows that people lived a lot longer, and she actually talked about the golden age, and I just wondered if do you believe that Sophia, her energy has reincarnated, just like the Christ energy reincarnates into men like Krishna, Matthias, and Jesus? These physical people. Would you say Sophia also, or just it's just her wisdom that comes down?
I think that there is a big misinterpretation of what Sophia actually is.
Yeah.
I think again, from the feminine alchemy, from the alchemical teachings, Sophia is not something that can incarnate into a specific body. I think we are again interpreting things too literally. Sophia, as per the alchemical Gnostic teachings, is the wisdom of the womb. So it is not an energy itself. And I know that there's a lot of new age kind of movement right now talking about return of Sophia and Sophia, who is Sophia. It's a little bit tangled up with the very meaning of what are we describing here. So the Sophia is the news, the wisdom of the womb. It is literally something that we cannot describe. The word wisdom does not describe it. It's something between consciousness, awareness, and wisdom, but it is the womb. So it is not exactly an energy like Jesus or Buddha that is going to now incarnate into some special woman, and here it is, it's return of Sophia. That is a misinterpretation of the whole concept, because Sophia is the wisdom. It is that alchemy encapsulated in the womb, which unfortunately women have lost access to. We have been disconnected with the works of the moon, with the works of this whole construct, and as a result of sort of placing us in a certain context, socially, culturally, etc., into certain behaviors and experiences. Whereas the Sophia originally, right, when you look back to those women, we have Inanna, we have Isis, we have Aphrodite, we have
Ishtar.
We have Mary Magdalena, we have Mother Mary. All these women, they kind of they give you the feeling of the same energy. Why? Because they were all alchemical women. They were women very much using the alchemy of the womb. This is where the story of the Holy Grail comes from, right? Holy Grail is not some kind of vessel or a chalice that is going to be.
It's the womb.
Absolutely, it is the alchemical womb. It is the womb, and every woman holds the Holy Grail within. However, the problem is the Holy Grail is kind of inactive. Yeah, in most women, it is just the potency is gone.
The obelisk is the man's penis.
Absolutely.
Hence why you see them all around, scattered around the
Absolutely.
thing, because that's the male energy. It's the masculine.
I want to completely I want to rewind as when the woman was the alchemical woman, and when we lost that power, if you like, for want of a better word. Was that when the demiurge was placed into this construct? Can you go all the way back to the beginning? You know, how did we as humans, women, men, how did we lose who we are? When did we become these holographic constructs that are now owned and controlled by archons, aliens, whatever you want to call them?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what you mean with the holographic construct, because I don't see us as, you know, being holographs.
When you talk about the fractals of light and we're being beamed in from wherever the dome or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, so our experience is that of like a holographic reality, right? Because we've lost that freedom. So we are literally being programmed, and this whole notion of holographic reality is a result of the fact that certain sort of frequencies are being beamed upon us, like you say, and our experience is such and not the other. So this is where this matrix kind of net comes from, right? In terms of the beginning, so patriarchy is not the kind of law that was here always. It's not. So you know, a lot of people are mostly sort of going back to the movie Matrix and linking that as that major breakthrough in our awakening. And I would say that perhaps a lot more information is coded in the movie Avatar. So Avatar tells a story, of course inverted, of an invasion onto a planet where highly evolved spiritually, the blue beings, right, are sort of living a peaceful existence, and they are being invaded by, well, humans, so flipped. And of course, what happens there, you know, all those symbols, the tree of life, and the connection, that spiritual connection that they have to the earth and to the nature and to each other, all that is represented there. So this is pretty much a smuggled history of what happened here. So the human race was not okay, this is what I stand by. The human race was not invented or created by them. Human race was already here when the Anunnaki, or however we want to call them, when they arrived. And it was literally a quest to conquer and to harvest the energy. So they've created this construct, they've built what they needed to build to make that happen. And just right before it happened, or you know, when they started to sort of come here and toy with the idea, obviously that race had males and females representatives, and at some point, which is very, very clearly described, for example, in the Vedas, or even the story of Enuma Elish, right? At some point there is a moment of conflict between the males of that race and the females. Tiamat in Enuma Elish is described as the great mother, the grandmother of the Anunnaki. So there is a conflict on the line between the males and the females. Specifically, the males are deciding that they do not need the females, and whatever they bring to the table, they can do it themselves. So there is this beginning of the hegemony of the males. I don't want to call it masculine energy, because I think that concept is totally mixed up here. It's not about masculine, feminine. It is about literally the males and the females. So they decide they want to pursue dominance. They want to. There is aggression. There is all those kind of things that come in with that hegemony, with wanting to assume that place of sort of taking over and ruling themselves. So the females are in a way sort of pushed away. And what happens, and these are the Inannas, these are the Isis, these are the Aphrodites. The story, the Greek mythology is literally the story of what happened here. So we have the male gods, we have those Zeus and Apollos and all the other ones, versus the females. And the same happens in Sumeria, right? We have the Inannas and the Ninhursag versus the Anu and the Enki and the Enlil and the Marduk and the sort of masculine line. So what happens is that this connection from the feminine gets sort of filtrated down onto us. They start messing with our DNA. They start slowly switching off additional strands, right? We don't have junk DNA. We had full DNA that became inactive. It through those experiments, it got switched off. So that kind of conflict gets literally translated onto us. The story of Eden, right? Adam, Eve. Eve was not even the first one. We had Lilith, and Lilith was that original alchemical woman who said, "No, I will not submit to your dominance."
And
so
that's bastardized.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, because she's seen as the evil opponent.
Exactly. And then look how interesting that every woman that has ever been a little bit rebellious against that patriarchal construct in the making is the demon, is the witch, and gets really, really bad reputation in marketing. So that is not accidental. So then comes Eve, which is obviously the sort of second second go, she's submissive, she goes along with, I wouldn't even say she's submissive, but of course in a way there are slightly different behaviors, although she remains the woman. But it is also a bit of a story of that progress into how to make women more submissive and how to take away that alchemy from them. So this is literally that story of massaging the patriarchy into this plane. And of course, we know that sort of 2000, 3000 BC, that patriarchy is not yet that strong. But with time, it gets fully implemented, and then women get pushed sort of to the backstage, if you like. But still, the wisdom, the knowledge is retained. But what tends to happen? Women are just not allowed to. Obviously, the reverence is gone. Women are not officially able to perform the alchemy. So we have at that time, sort of times of Jesus, right? The sort of 2000 years ago, we have this is what those temples of Isis in Egypt are about. These are the places where women would have been taught the very high level of alchemy and those teachings. So for example, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, they were high priestesses of Isis. They would have been trained in Alexandria or in Egypt into the feminine alchemy. This is where the virgin birth comes from. Okay, virgin birth has nothing to do with some kind of nonsense trick. No, virgin birth has to do with one of the highest secret of feminine alchemy, which is to do with parthenogenesis. So a woman, the alchemy of a woman goes as far as being able to conceive without participation of a male counterpart. So it is not about being clean or sort of physically in a sort of sexual context, but it is about being able to conceive parthenogenetically.
So I just want to touch on, I know nothing about astrology, by the way, but I've picked up things as I've gone along, and I know the full astrological age is around 26,000 years. We're at the end of the astrological age, which is the age of Aquarius, and that's why there's all these big. I perceive it to be all this, the reset, etc., the thinning of the veil, and the age of Aquarius is the feminine. We're going into the feminine. We're leaving this is my interpretation of it. We're leaving the patriarch, and we're going into the feminine. So if we are going back into the feminine, which I believe they are trying to stop with all this masculine energy they're putting out there in the movies, and and as you've said, you've got all you Wonder Womans, your female masculine energies. They have made women to be masculine, like I've been called masculine because I have to fend for myself. So we're going into the age of the feminine. When I don't quite know how. The way I'm envisaging it is in a very simplistic way. We've gone through the ages of the astrology, and we're now going in. So when the women were feminine, when the women were in control, for want of a better word, was that at the beginning of the astrological age, or has that got nothing to do with it?
I wouldn't necessarily sort of make a link to the astrological ages, or
okay.
I wouldn't even call them astrological. I would say that these are certain cosmic cycles. Okay, so age of Aquarius is just a result of the precession of equinoxes, and mind you, whether precession is because Earth is in wobbling or whether it's because there is something else going on, doesn't matter. The result is that kind of phenomena exists. But I think that the key here is not so much that the age creates behavior by itself, because it doesn't, but it is more, you see, back 8,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, we still find very strong evidence of feminine alchemy being practiced. The witches that were burnt at the stake, what were they burnt at the stake for? Well, not for cooking, you know, they were burnt at the stake for
I
having
would be
access,
in my cooking.
right? They had access to certain wisdom that was dangerous to the establishment, and that was the alchemy. Because why? Because specifically witches, they were able to literally dissolve the very fabric of the matrix, as I call it. So
women had a biodiversity relationship with the planet, and that's what's got
right.
lost. It's the nurturing. They knew how to use herbs. It was like they were part of the planet. They were, like you say, with the Avatar. They could heal. They were the healers. There was the wisdoms. There was the shamans. So they've lost all that capabilities now. They're
Well,
just getting
you
forced.
see, the alchemy itself is not actually to do with that kind of knowledge, because that's more like herbalism or sort of natural medicine, and that's important, and of course a lot of them have been lost by itself. But the alchemy of a woman specifically is not to do with external substances, it is to do with the internal substances. So we're talking the secretions of the body. And the problem with alchemy is, or the reason why the women have lost that power, or a lot has been done for women to lose that power, is about the potency of those secretions. So we might still be able to produce some of that, but the potency is lost. So when the potency of a substance is lost, the process is not going to produce any result, right? So the alchemy, when I talk about the feminine alchemy, I'm talking about the internal, natural internal processes, not so much the external. But you know, back to what Joe also mentioned, that you know, the age of Aquarius is the age of return of a woman. And of course, you know, another inversion, because most of the time, if you look up Aquarius glyph or Aquarius sort of as a sign, you're gonna see a man holding a pitcher and pouring the water, whereas it is actually a woman. It's Heba from mythology. So the point here is, this is the return of alchemical women, the pitcher being the holy grail, right? So the return of women who are able once again to activate the alchemy and pour the water of life. So just like you mentioned, Joe, it is the current agenda is very much trying to counteract this natural phenomena. So they cannot stop the cosmic energies. They cannot stop or change the cosmic context. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to mess with our DNA again, right? So that when the energies are aligned, we are not physically prepared, even less than before, to be able to step into what we need to step into. And this time right now, I think Age of Aquarius is, you know, it's important, and it's a valid context, but we have something more going on right now on top of that. This is why the time now that we're living in, this is such a precedence. This is such an important time, because we actually have 3 cycles converging here at the same time. We have the end of Kali Yuga, so we're finally lifting off the shackles of the darkest and the most difficult of the ages. And on top of that, we are right now, it's been going on for a few years, but at the winter solstice, the sun is perfectly aligned with the Milky Way, with the center of the galaxy. Okay, so what does that mean? What's in the center of the galaxy? A black hole. So this is the black hole, like the womb, sending certain energies, and this is not new age what I'm talking about. This is measurable energy which has been reported by physicists, and that energy has been exponentially growing from about 2017, which is very interesting. Why from 2017? Because in the 2017, at the spring, autumn equinox, at the fall equinox, September 2017, we have had the most beautiful, most important sign in the sky, the woman clothed in a sun with the crown of 12 stars above her head. and she was with a child,
That's
and
Sophia.
the moon at her feet.
Yeah, Sophia, Peter Sophia.
Well, that's the constellation Virgo.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the celestial event, constellation Virgo. Specifically, the sun was there, the moon was just leaving Virgo, so it was at the feet. 3 planets plus the constellation Leo, which is before Virgo, so that constituted the crown, and the pregnancy, that was Jupiter. Doesn't matter what planet plays what role. The point is, it's the picture. And that is, once again, that is prophesized in a lot of cultures, a lot of ancient texts predating the Bible. That sign is prophesied as literally the kind of kickstart point for the true potential to turn things around here. And that event has been even confirmed, because this is an apocalyptic event. It has been captured in the Apocalypse. The Vatican confirmed it. So the Vatican in 2017 confirmed that yes,
Yeah, they did.
this is the event, this is the sign. So you see, we have 3 things going on that are kind of overlapping, that are very, very important. We are getting right now a massive support, and this is not a new agey story. This is science. Like I say, a lot of institutes and physicists have been reporting influx of energy, cosmic energy. It is when they try to measure what is it, where it's coming from, they cannot really understand what it is. It's the dark matter, the dark energy flying our way. The direction seems to be from the center of the black hole, so the center of the Milky Way galaxy. But another influx of energy is coming from, surprise, surprise, center of the Earth. So it's coming
on the black sun.
kingdom.
Is the black sun at the center of the Earth?
I don't see any black sun. To me, that's the underworld. So our structure of this world, and again reflected in the Norse mythology, reflected in Avatar, the tree of life, right? Which is, I'm not saying we are living on a tree. I'm just saying that energetically, there are sort of three layers, if you like. So there is the underworld, there is this plane where we are existing, so the middle world, and there is the upper kingdom, so the connection back into the womb of the Milky Way galaxy.
Which is
so energetically, not physically, like you say, right? Like metaphorically, kind of energetically, this is how we are structured. This is why we have the motif of the tree of life in the Kabbalah, in the Norse mythology. It shows up in every culture, in the South America. Everybody has the same motive. That's what they have been capturing. And of course, the underworld, that's the roots of the tree, and that is that's that connection to that other world, underworld, womb of the earth, womb of the mother. So this is how I interpret that.
You shut us up, Ola.
It's interesting you say about the black hole, because we were literally talking about this the other day, that because the age is for the whole going through the cycles is 26,000 years, and they say through science that it's actually nearly 26,000 years to get from this point to the Milky Way
in light years.
In light years, which is again quite interesting, that it's taken all this 26,000 year age cycle and the distance from here to the Milky Way, which I didn't even realize there was a black hole until Joe talked to me about it the other day. And what some people are saying, that's the void, that is the way out, but you're saying it's the energy coming in. Yeah. Whereas some people are saying it's the way out.
So what is your interpretation of the way out? If when we pass, we've got the false white light, which a lot of us are now realizing that there is a false white light. What's your interpretation of how we get out of this matrix?
So again, you know, for me, back to the teachings of the wise women, of the witches, back to what we discussed as the very first topic, the underworld. So yes, of course, underworld is a journey to be taken when you are alive. This is what Mary Magdalena says: if you do not resurrect by life, after death, forget it, too late. Yeah. So what does that mean? It means you need to know where you're going. You need to know how to navigate, and you need to know not to go up there, right, into the construct. So going where? Well, two ways, as taught by the witches, by the and by the Cathars. One way, through the portal of the sun. Sun is a portal. So they used to be called Solarians. I think that's how you translate it in Solarians. Why? Because the Cathars had that cult of the sun. The sun was feminine. Okay, all cultures back in the past, before everything was inverted, the sun is feminine. The sun is not masculine. The sun is feminine. So the sun is a portal in itself. So one way is through the portal, and of course then there's the cascade, because then there's the binary sort of sister of the sun, Sirius, and Alcyon, the third sort of stop on the way. This is back to also the, if you ever heard the electric universe theory, so that sun, our sun, and Sirius are kind of rotating around each other, and then everything, the whole grouping around Alcyon. But that's another story, that's to do with the procession. But that's one way, and another way is down to down the tree of life, so that energetic structure of the tree of life, so into the underworld, through the underworld. And then out at the bottom, or by the roots of the tree of life, there is a portal out of here. So one or the other, and even a lot of the legends and stories and the Kapha stories talk about some of those women, some of those really alchemical, amazing women who decided, when they were leaving this plane, to actually only step down into the underworld, not leave completely, so that when this time now comes, they will be sort of supporting those changes from the underworld. The underworld, extremely important sort of fortress, if you like. It is the last frontier, because you know, this realm is obviously something that they have overtaken. So the underworld is still untouched. And we have kind of lost connection with the outer world, if you like, with that, because of the dome. So this is still that last frontier. And those influxes which are coming from the center of the Milky Way galaxy and from the Earth, from the certain center of the Earth, this is such energy. This is literally the dark energy, the dark matter coming in and dissolving the very matrix, the very fabric of the matrix. So the glitches that we have been seeing more and more in the recent years, part of the reason for that is the influx of this energy. But the energy by itself is not going to do the whole job for us while we just sit back and do nothing. So this is where this is why we are, you know, the third cycle is the age of Aquarius. It is the return of the alchemical woman. So women are necessary in order to complete this planetary liberation process, if you like. So and women not fighting, not being the superhero that we are being obviously led down that path in the movies, but women through the activation of their alchemy. So activating the Holy Grail, bringing it back online, if you like, allowing and making sure that again this alchemy can be performed. And alchemy is not any kind of rituals, definitely not any moon rituals, okay? Because I know that we are heavily programmed into believing that the moon and woman connection, absolutely a massive deception. But literally women reconnecting with themselves and starting to sort of activate certain processes, being able to use the Holy Grail for these very processes of materializing this energy.
It's funny you should say that, because I know you're from Poland originally, and I know the Slavics are really against the moon, and some of their mythology is one of the punishments is they turn into wolves, and the howl at the moon is because of the sin kind of thing, that they hate the moon kind of thing, and they say the moon is also the false white light. It's what is suppressing the feminine energy for the women, hence why they have the menstrual cycle. And the hormones are all over.
Exactly.
And I find that interesting, because in the ancient times they used to use the actual blood from obviously the woman's period to scare away evil spirits, because they said it was so powerful, the actual blood of a feminine. And obviously that's in the Slavic mythology culture.
You see, this is exactly the crux of the alchemy. So the blood, the feminine blood, is probably one, well, it is, if not the most potent, when it has the potency. But that's the problem. You see, absolutely what you're saying is correct. It has the ability to protect. It has the ability to open portals. It has the ability to reconnect in that energetic structure to the underworld and to the cosmic womb. That's what the blood can do. But you see, it needs to be the blood of an alchemical woman. It needs to be a blood of a woman who is able to create that potency naturally, not by some kind of intentions, meditations, rituals, right? It doesn't work like that. So what you're saying is spot on, and you know, there are pockets, right, in different geographies across the world where certain things are still kind of lingering, and certain knowledge still remains, such as what you're saying. No cult, I mean, of course we've been programmed as well in Poland, mind you. The New Age has been very, very active with all this moon propaganda, but absolutely, even going a little bit to the east, Ukraine, Russia, you have women who have an amazing wisdom, or they did decades ago. And specifically, like you say, the howling at the moon by the wolf. The wolf has always been linked to the moon, to the woman, to feminine. It was a positive influence. So the moon howling, the wolf howling at the moon. It is because, as we say, the moon is stealing the soul. So the wolf is howling not in some kind of connection. But
it's like anger at the moon. Like, exactly. What are you doing to me?
Scaring. It's to scare, and it is to sort of send that vibe that, you know, stay in, don't go out, right? So that this influence, you're protected from that influence. Absolutely. So you see, this is the thing. When you only locked yourself in a certain geography, you may not be able to connect the dots, and that is part of the idea behind this agenda, right? That we are so well, in a way, we are encouraged to dive deep into one area, so that you kind of go and do your PhD on a certain area and a certain topic, and that's where you specialize, and you don't really explore anything else. Well, I think that's exactly what the problem is, because when you start connecting the dots, what did the Chinese do? What did the Chinese say? What do we say here? What about the cells? What about the Scandinavia? What about the South America? What about the Africa? You know, there are a lot of indigenous stories back from the days where they say that part of the agenda of exterminating this wisdom was to come and kill all the women past the age of 12, 14 years old. So girls, women past that age, and only leave the sort of girls up until the age of 10. So up until the age where they would have been too young to be to already be exposed to those certain teachings by their mothers, grandmothers. So, and then this was the way to eradicate a lot of this wisdom. These are stories from a lot of shamanic traditions. So this is how this wisdom, which was still tucked away here or there, this is how that was eradicated. It's terrible, it's dramatic.
Yeah, it's because it's the Slavics and the Celts, even though they're completely different areas, they're very, very similar.
Yeah.
And again, like they said, the women led a role in both the Celtic mythology and the Slavic, and it is very, very similar. But yet, the two parts of the world that probably never communicated together, but yet they still share the same story.
Well, you see, back in where I'm from, there's been some research done into the sort of movements and migrations, and there's a very strong indication that the Slavs, they were actually moving that way. So as far as the Druids, and that wisdom was actually traveling left, right, and center. Here where I am, we have a story, and I'm for those that don't know, I am in the very north of Norway, so past the Arctic Circle. This is the sort of top. Here there are stories, legends, fairy tales, linking this very place where I live with Hyperborea. So the story of Hyperborea meaning beyond the northern sort of wind. Yeah, that's the translation. And there's a lot of evidence in those stories. A lot of Helena Blavatsky also in her stories points to this place being Hyperborea. So you see, it's in those stories, what we are hearing is that there is a connection back to the Aryans, that the Aryans have traveled up here, but also Aryans travel through the Iran, the Persian Gulf, right? So I think that there was much more movement, and really those advanced civilizations, that wisdom was spread right across. So no wonder that we have sort of echoes and mirroring of certain mythologies or stories, or even cultural contexts in geographies which are seemingly so far away, yet the same underlying stories there.
Let's see. I know going a bit off topic, but I don't know. There's a lot of people talking about, and especially in the Gnostics, about the Phoenix. And they say that there's an actual Phoenix event coming, which is what starts the new golden age. And going back into I know the Phoenix is to do with the masculine, but you used to have Aquila the eagle, which was the feminine, which is what they say they used to call the flood. Have you ever looked into anything about the Phoenix event itself?
Well, I've heard a little bit of this Phoenix and all the resets and that kind of narrative, but to me, what we've already described, the fact that those three big cycles, because we're talking, these are big, okay? These are not small cycles.
Which cycles are you on about? You're on about the 6,000 year, the 26, and
yeah, I'm talking the age of Aquarius, the end of Kali Yuga, and the great star sign in the sky. So those three things kind of coming together. That to me is the event, okay? That is and this is what the indigenous, this is what the legends talk about in terms of coming to a point where the humanity will be at the fork in the road, right? So it can either go to sort of destruction or to further enslavement, or we can turn it around. And the turning around is pretty much in every culture ascribed to women playing that pivotal part in it, and not in a sense of sort of taking over some functions or leading, in any kind of visible way, as in on the world arena, but in the context of alchemy. So in that sense, that's pretty much what I've been focusing on.
Good.
And it's interesting because what I've noticed over these last 3 years is things get put into our timeline for us to concentrate on, and the big thing is the Phoenix, and then we begin to manifest that into our reality. Given that we are, well, you may have a different take on this. My perception of things is we are powerful, and that's why they want us sharing certain narratives so that we then manifest it into our reality. Do you have a take on that? Given, I mean, it's so difficult when you've been down a certain narrative and you're reading and listening to various podcasters, books, researchers, and then everything that you think you've learned, somebody comes along and completely flips what you've learned, or what you think you know. So obviously, one of the things I wanted to ask is regarding the pineal gland, and they are, what's the word you used? They are
streaming, or the
streaming, yeah, narratives into our. If that's, and again, if that's the case, why are they feeding us with certain foods and fluorides to dumb down the pineal gland? Because you would think that they would want it completely activated.
Well, not exactly. They dumb it down. So it's in a way, it's like a receiver that at its normal capacity would be able to, let's say, tune into 10,000 stations. But what they've done, they sort of played with it to a point where it is able to tune into maybe 2. So this is the kind of channels, these are the stations that they are using to pump the narrative, pump the kind of reality, the experiences that they want to pump into us, while we are oblivious to any other possibilities out there, because those other sort of channels are blocked or inactive. So I kind of see it in that way. But I think what you've also mentioned is that this whole ability, or this whole notion of us creating something for them, because they don't have the ability to create that. And that is exactly back to the whole point that we have the disconnect on that level between the females and the males. And of course the males, they do not have ability to create. I don't want anybody to get angry now, because women give birth. The creation is feminine. Men do not give birth. I'm gonna probably get censored for that, right?
No. It's interesting you say that, because I've looked into the Lemurians, and the Lemurians were all about that the women were the creators and the men were just the doers, the protectors. And where the Atlanteans, the opposite, were very masculine, the Lemurians were about the feminine. And like I said, they were the women were using their imaginations to create the better world, because they were very with spirit, where the Atlanteans were all about technology and science.
Right.
And like you say, the women are the creators. And if you look at, if people are going to put God or source, whatever they want to call it, they say it's a man, but a man can't create. A man can only seed. It's only a woman that creates, and that's it again. It's the woman that's the portal from the spirit into this world. Exactly. So again, it's that people have subdued that the women aren't as powerful, but yet nothing would exist without the female. But it's the male that carries the seed. Like,
well, but you see, this is absolutely what's happened here the last several thousands of years, right? This programming into patriarchy and the father in the sky and the god being the masculine, that is part of that massaging certain agenda. So we have been so accustomed to just taking it for granted that we don't even consider that, hold on a minute, how is the creation coming from a male, right, when we know that it's coming from a female? But when you look into even archaeology or any other artifacts dating back a little bit further than patriarchy, you will see that there was very for millennia and longer, there was a very clear worship or cult of the feminine, I don't want to call it a cult because it wasn't a cult, but it was the recognition of the fact that creation is feminine, not masculine. So the, you know, and that was phased out over time. So at some point it was allowed to be goddesses, but later even the goddesses had been removed. So there is only father. He doesn't even have a consort, right? It's just the father god, and that's it. And some earthly woman who gave virgin birth. That's it. But that is part of that sort of masculine propaganda, that patriarchal propaganda. Whereas, yeah, go on.
It is really interesting as well, that, and you touched on this earlier, how all the names, I mean, Dan's been looking into this a lot longer than I have, like the biblical stuff, etc. But all the names that we come across, like your Cain, your Abel, your Jesus, you got the Adam Eve, but they're all men. Even the demiurge is a man, if you like, Sophia.
Well, because it's patriarchy, right? And that's
Yeah.
why when you,
Yeah.
what Dan mentioned before, wherever you look around the world, whether that's London, Washington, or Rome, or whatever, Vatican, any place, what you're gonna see there? You're gonna see an obelisk.
Yeah.
So this is literally that stamp of the patriarchy, that stamp of us men, not men, okay, not you guys men, but the males.
I'm not a man. You guys, I'm not a man. Only the one. Sorry, go on.
You know, the males of that race really driving that agenda. There's a little bit more into it, okay, and that could take a program on its own. Why is there such, you know, that phallic symbology everywhere? What is that really about? What is that domination? Why the sword? The sword is another phallic symbol, right? So the sword, the obelisk, all those things, and every hero needs to hold a sword. What is that? Well, the sword over the grail, right? So here is the sword, that masculine domination, that male domination over the grail. So we are trying to phase out and disconnect you from that true creation and connect you to that masculine kind of narrative, right? But the problem, back to what you said earlier, Joe, the problem in this realm is that obviously, okay, we have those males who created this realm, and the show is being run without seemingly without use of feminine, because that disconnect happened. But is it really? And this is where we come to play, right? So women, we still have the womb, and the moon has been still up there operating, controlling the womb, because the cycle of a woman, 28 days, 13 times a year, this is not natural. This is a result of the moon manipulation and control. But the point here is about the mechanism. So what do? Well, what they do is they use us to create, to birth certain things into this realm. And funny enough, okay, because we are so disconnected from this wisdom, we can't even see the like I say, the forest through the trees, because you see, it is all tied back to the seasons in nature. The winter is the time of hibernation, everything kind of dies off, and the new life comes in when? In the spring. What's happening in the spring? In the spring, we have certain interesting domino of certain dates and certain events. We have the spring equinox, we have Easter, and you see, we have obviously the first of we have Imbolc, the 1st of February. So we have something germinating under the surface. Then we have some kind of moment of spring sort of slowly starting, and then we have the mysterium of life, original mysterium of life, Easter, which is obviously turned into mysterium of death by them, right? I explain also on one of my webinars what does that mean and why. But look at the last even 3 years. Let's look at the last 3 years. What's been happening? Come spring 2020, right? Come February, oh, there is a virus. We all gonna die. Injected into the matrix. 2021, there is another kind of version of the virus. We all gonna die. Injected into the matrix on during spring. 2022, the spring, Ukraine war, drama, right? Injected into the matrix. When? February, again, end of February. Everything always end of February, March, right? Then come 2023, dollar's gonna collapse. It's going to be economic crisis. Everybody needs to be scared now, right? Injected into the matrix. So every single time, what are they doing? They are using specific timing, specific natural cycle timing, connected to what?
Life.
To nature.
Life.
To nature, absolutely. To life slowly being born, right? And then Easter is the time when that birthing is happening. So what are they doing? They are using natural cycle and us in that cycle to birth them, to literally birth them, whatever they impregnate us with just before. So you see, the problem is that our alchemy or our ability, we still have ability to birth, clearly, because we still are able to have children. So we still retain certain alchemical abilities, but these abilities are very much controlled or reduced, I would say reduced, to operating at a certain level by this construct. What we do not have, or what most women are unable to activate, is that alchemy of that different level, of that sort of higher level, of being able to birth something better than misery, fear, etc., right, into this realm. So actually, what they have been doing, they are using very much what you're talking about. They cannot create themselves. They're using us to create. They are creating, they are organizing certain information. They are injecting an information which is going to cause a certain reaction in us, right? Certain emotion, certain feeling. And then what? This is what we are going to birth.
That's interesting, that.
What's been happening over the past 3 years.
Just to bring the men into that, they are feminizing the men, so the women don't have the support of the men, because all the men are fairies.
Exactly. And you see, this is I think Dan mentioned that before as well, that like in Lemuria, right, you had the women who were obviously recognized for the creative capacity, whereas the men knew that their job and their role, it's very important, it's critical to be standing by those women, creating the right environment, creating the safety, giving the right support, etc., for a woman to do what? To step into alchemy, which is literally, this is the Kapha's teachings as well. The women would have been the ones to, the highest calling of a woman would be always to be able to perform the alchemy. So the man's calling always around supporting the women and defending. Women were not the ones to be going to battles and fighting, arguing and killing, going to wars. No, women are the ones who create. It's men's job to provide safety. It's men's job to provide the sort of right conditions for a woman to feel fully safe and supported to be able to step into alchemy. But, you know, we're living in such a funny world that a lot of men find that role not very attractive, or I don't know, they would rather be the hero, right? So it's almost like the men are doing the wrong thing. The women are left to their own devices, hopefully waking up to some alchemy. And of course, there is this agenda that you, Joe, mentioned, which is now the men are confused what they are, the women are confused what they are. And of course, this is the result of some hormonal therapy that we've all been exposed to, and unfortunately probably the younger generations even more through the vaccines and the food and everything. So I strongly feel that the reason why this ridiculousness is actually taking not why it started, because we know why it started, but why so many people really start questioning and thinking that they are boy, they are a girl, is because their hormones are so messed up that they truly don't know anymore what's their identity.
What they are. Yeah, I found that really interesting about you saying there about when they were actually doing the programming, because the spring equinox is also your first sign of the zodiac. So then you've got the whole zodiac to go through to implement their plan. And again, they pick the star signs, what they want to use for the astrology, when to implement things. And I know, like, your certain ones, like your Sagittarius, can always be bad. I think November's a prominent day, which is always they always do a sacrifice. I know December, the Sagittarius, because that's again linked to Apollyon, hence the bow with the centaur, which then links to Abaddon. Hence why with Christmas, giving presents and stuff like that. Like December is usually a big sacrifice for these agendas, whoever you want to call them. I will never give them a word elite because they're nothing special. This is what people think. I hate that with terminology of elite because you're putting them on a higher pedestal. But whether these people are that are creating these agendas, they are using the astrology pattern to set these stages up. And like I never even noticed that, like when you said about February, that they're doing it in every spring equinox, the start of every star sign, so then they can play out everything then for the whole 12-month cycle.
Right. And you see, this is yet another confirmation that astrology is being ridiculed, it's being sort of laughed at, right? But who is laughing? They're not laughing. They know very well that it works. They are fully aware of this construct and the fact that astrology is the sort of the language, the code to the very mechanics of it. So they use astrology, of course they do. They use numerology, of course they do. They use gematria. They use all sorts of codes. This is why, for example, I think Joe, you mentioned that you've seen me with Logan from Decode Your Reality. So we had a show together. And Logan does a lot of decodes. So he decodes events, he decodes people. That's his kind of that's his really big talent there. And you see, what's he really with all those decodes, what he's proving is that everything here in this matrix is a result of some
Construct,
code,
yeah.
right? It's a construct, it's a code. So yes, they're not doing things accidentally, randomly. There is no accident here. There is no coincidence here. Everything is according to that code and plan. Everything here is, and why? Because they know at what time the energies are going to be heightened for this reaction or this kind of energy. So for example, I think a few months ago I was also explaining why this whole nonsense 3 years ago, why did they went ahead with a pandemic and not something else. And I've explained using the Babylonian astrology what specifically was supporting the energy of health crisis. So do I believe in COVID? Of course not. Of course it's nonsense, okay? But the point is that when you create a health-based event in the time frame whereas the energy is supporting that kind of narrative, you're gonna have people, millions, believing it because they feel the energy and they buy into it. If you try to, in that kind of, let's say, health related energy context, if you try to put a nuclear event in there, people are not going to buy it. Because it is going to be this disconnection, a mismatch, right? You kind of putting one energy and another information, so it's not connecting. But what they did every step of the way was connect precisely the type of supporting energy, astrological energy, with the corresponding step in their agenda. This is why we had a pandemic. And guess what? The minute, because what they are doing, they're looking at cycles of Mars. specifically Mars. We're talking Babylonian astrology. Why Babylonian? Because this is the astrology that they are following. Okay,
Following.
it's
Is that
like
what they're following?
Babylon. The Babylon has never fell. It just moved over to Rome. So they are following that. This is where their Marduks and Enki and all those gods are coming from, right? This is the origin here. So they are looking at this Babylonian astrology. They are looking at certain cycles, and then what happens next time round? The Mars, the start of the Mars cycle, the god of war, one of their favorites. The start of his cycle is in Scorpio, and narrative immediately shifts. COVID is over, the pandemic, that stuff is over. Now Mars finds itself in Scorpio, and we're talking heliacal rising. It's a little bit complicated. We're not talking transits, we're talking heliacal rising here. Doesn't matter, technicality. The point is, now we are starting the cycle in the energy of Scorpio, which is what? Which is hostility, which is war, in the matrix context. And what do we have? 2022, start of
Ukraine.
Well, you know, information's about war in Ukraine. And again, what? People jump on the bandwagon. You open Netflix, what do you have? One of the languages to choose from, you have Ukrainian. Nobody's questioning that, right? Why don't we have Somalian or whatever other country that we also know there is a war? And people just keep buying into those things that don't make
just going
sense.
on with the war as well. It's not just the war in the physical. You've also got the war of the left and the right, your liberals and your conservatives.
Right.
So your right wing and your left wing, like you can feel it coming as well. That these energies are colliding together. You people who are so far left on the left side, and you got these people on the right side. Like they're now constantly at war with each other. Even in the truther movement, you've got your left side, your liberals,
No, I mean,
and you got
of course, but in terms of the exact timing, it's just not even funny. It was literally the moment when the war, the narrative kind of the COVID was terminated, and now we're moving over here.
So it's the energy of the planets and the energy of the astrological side. They've got to match, and they then choose a narrative to fit those energies. And because the energy is streaming in, the people will go for it because they're feeling the energies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So basically they watch astrology. They know exactly what's coming because we all can predict, we all can see, we can all look into the future in terms of what kind of cycle and when and what's going to happen. And they are effectively utilizing that very information to sort of anchor a certain narrative, you know, into this plane, to literally sell us a certain story. And they know exactly what kind of story we are likely to buy and not buy because of these astrological influences. And astrological influences are the construct. It is literally the reason, or the fallout of the construct, right? So and the construct is what? The very advanced technology based on sort of beaming of certain frequencies, etc., etc. So this is all very, very advanced, but that is the result. They will be using certain energies, they know about them, and then they're gonna inject certain narrative, and they know that we're gonna buy it. Why? Because there is an energy in the air, in the ether, of exactly that kind of flavor.
So how? Sorry to interrupt. Well, I'm not sorry, because I'm going to interrupt.
Go for it, please do.
Dan knows what I'm like. I'm always. So this etheric energy that's coming in from the black hole, how could that potentially interfere with the energies with their construct? Because of course that's an external energy force, isn't it? They have no control over that. Is that what CERN is for? To try and that energy.
So the influx of this energy is sort of messing. Let's put it this way. It's messing with their equipment. It is messing with that very construct, and that construct streaming something to us, suddenly that energy comes in and it kind of messes with it. It's a little bit like, you know, when we have a storm, right, and we have a thunder hit something. If you have a thunderstorm hit some electrical sort of lines, what you're gonna have? You're gonna have a short circuit, or you're gonna have a blow up, or whatever, right? So obviously that kind of energy has potentially a negative effect on any kind of technology, right? So this is that kind of way in which this is coming in and helping. However, energy is energy until it's materialized, until it's literally like, you see, it's the same what they are doing. They are using an energy, a flavor of an energy, but they need us to birth it. They need us to buy into it and sort of birth it. So by the same token, why aren't we birthing this cosmic energy that is
There's
coming
too many
to help?
distractions. There's too many distractions.
Exactly. We don't even
Yeah.
know, right? We don't even know.
Well,
so we are tuning in to what we are being fed with a spoon. Look, war here. Look, some kind of pandemic. Look at this. Look at another drama, right? And this is the way they are literally rolling their plan by us all the time. Like, you know, it's like you take a dog, right? You sort of put something in front of the dog's nose and the dog starts following you. That's what we've been doing. That's what we've been doing. This is why there is a TV in your house. This is why you know, you have a phone that's 24/7 almost in your hands, and that's the way they sort of play out their game. So the point here is that without any awareness, and if people, I think that the nice starting point is to please stop watching that. Please stop engaging into that. Please stop following the news, right?
Others, we don't engage in any of that. We've got a little group on Telegram, and we just, well, I don't even know what's going on in the world. I didn't know about this Hawaii thing till it was, you know, I just don't know, because I came to that
somewhere.
I came to that realization, and it was from a manifestation point of view, which I just want to go back to very briefly. Are we capable of manifestation if they're streaming their control narrative into us? Are we capable of manifestation, whether it's for them or whether it's for us? I know I got slightly back, but
no, it's a valid question, because you see, again, manifestation is a mind-based thing, and the mind is the playground of the gods. So manifestation is effectively a sort of process whereby you are, it's like a thought, a creation by thoughts. Those results are not very they're not lasting. These are more like fake construct. I mean, the mind is creating, and the mind is mind controlled. So this is why they like us to manifest, and they like us to focus on that way, because this is the sort of almost AI way. This is their way. This is coming from the mind. And mind you, of course, the mind is, like you said, it is the part of us that receives the programming. Whereas if you want to give birth to a child, you're not going to manifest a child. You're going to give birth to it. There is a difference. They want us to be mind-based. Yeah, they want us to be mind-based, and manifestation comes from the mind. But birthing, creation, comes from the womb. It doesn't come from the mind. So the way to, where I'm not talking about manifesting these energies, I'm talking about birthing these energies, creating these energies,
living these energies. Yeah.
So putting into action in it, so birthing is not just manifesting, it's manifesting with action, which is what.
Well, it's more about the alchemical process that's involved here. So of course the birthing involves the womb, the birthing involves the holy grail, but it needs to be the alchemy needs to take place, and the first step for the alchemy to take place is that womb needs to be the holy grail, right? It needs to first become the holy grail, and so that alchemy to even kickstart, there is a bit of a mixture of energetic, physical, and hormonal sort of cooperation that needs to happen. And this is the crux of why women have been that they've lost that ability, because we have been kept either in the masculine types of behavior where alchemy is totally disconnected, or we have been pushed towards those kind of sacrificing and victim type of positions. So you see, there is a whole spectrum available, a whole spectrum behaviors which are highly disempowering. Whenever a woman is in any position of giving up her power or worshipping an external entity, religions, gods, especially the masculine gods, but anything external, sacrificing, not just sacrificing in that kind of religious way, but sacrificing, I don't know, at work, not knowing her worth, not knowing her value, not really knowing what the self-love is, right? So and how much this current world is propagating that. Women who are the Instagram type of culture, right? Women who think that their value is based on what they look like and how many likes they get. I mean,
but equally that's being propagated to the men as well. Men are very much on that, men are wearing makeup and they're moisturizing, and I'm not dissing looking after yourself, but it goes back to that demasculating, is that the word?
Yeah,
man.
So obviously it's it is designed to sort of attack both genders, right? So it's designed to stop a woman from stepping or being able to activate that alchemy, and it is designed to stop a man from stepping into his role, into his energy as well. So you see, like I said before, they are not able to stop these cosmic events. They are not able to stop those 3 cycles converging. What the best they can do is make sure that once that happens, and it's happening right now, we are not ready to do anything with it.
Interesting. So it's up to the women to birth the new world that we want, the golden age, isn't it? And
well, it's up to women to really activate
push
that
the alchemy, yeah.
Absolutely. To birth what is this realm lacking? It's lacking love. It's lacking love. So on the highest level, what do women need to birth into this realm? Love. Instead of fear and
nurture,
misery.
Even nurture, like we're going so far into destruction. Like we just want to go like creating these smart cities. It's all going into destroying the organic and what
exactly.
nurturing.
It's going to the mind, right? It's going.
Yeah. And pushing us further away from what we are.
Exactly.
And also that's been propagated is women against women. Instead of supporting another woman, we'd sooner attack it, because that competitiveness comes in.
And competitiveness is a male trait, right? It's a masculine trait. It's not a feminine trait. So women competing with women who are sort of disconnected from that intuition, from that feeling, but very much in the logic, very much in that kind of the mind over anything else. That's also more of that masculine trait. Women by nature, they should be kind of feeling with the womb, but when the woman lifts up her kind of feeling ability and turns it into just thinking and just logically analyzing, controlling, etc., she steps out of that energy. So there are many ways, many avenues that this agenda and this construct prepared for women to really get lost in and step as far away from that alchemy as possible. Very big topic is the sexual energy. So this is a holy grail. a woman, an alchemical woman, the first key thing is, of course, self-love and self-respect. And what's happening now with this culture of promiscuity, with this culture of women literally, you know, the beauty is being sold for security. What is that?
And you can actually,
what are we?
You can see it through the ages. Even if you watch certain music videos, you can see it. I mean, the social engineering with the free love, I started in the 60s with the Beatles and you know, that whole free love movement, the New Age movement,
Exactly.
the promiscuity. But when you go before that, like you know, women dressed respectfully, they wore long skirts, and then when the free love, it was all about little dinky tops and showing as much flesh as they possibly can.
Exactly.
And I watched a YouTube video a few weeks ago, and it was the music through the ages, and the music videos, how they've changed, but not just from the way the women have become more and more promiscuous, but also the dumbing down of the music, you know, the lyrics. You can see it. The films, just everything. You can see it. If you've got the eyes to see, it's there for you to notice.
Absolutely. But you see, it's so ever subtle in certain ways. For example, like you've mentioned, back in a day, especially before the sexual revolution, we had women dressed in a totally different way, which obviously the emancipation movement, part of that was about, you know, equality and what are we, you know, we should have the same rights, we should have the same clothes, etc. And that was such a cunning way to smuggle something so evil and really negative for women here. Why? If you look back, for example, for the to the Slavic nations, but not just Slavic nations, if you look to our ethnic outfits for women, it's always some kind of dress or a top and a skirt, long one. Okay, sometimes maybe over time things have evolved and the skirt became a bit shorter and shorter, but originally long skirts. Go back 200, 300, 400, 500 years, long skirts. This is not an accident. This is not some kind of a sign of modesty. No, a skirt and the way women used to dress was part of catering to our literally our energetic construct. Why? Because a woman, the womb is the center, and a woman, when she connects to the underworld as she walks the earth, and when she connects to the upper kingdom, to the Milky Way galaxy, she becomes, well, she is energetically a tree of life. A woman is energetically represented by a tree. This is the tree of life, but also she is creating a toroidal field. You know how the energies flow in the toroidal field. So that skirt becomes part of that toroidal sort of movement of energy. It literally, the skirt, the reason why it's long, and I'll tell you more, back in the day, a woman would not wear underwear. So that this flow of energy from the earth, from the inner earth up the skirt, and obviously the skirt wouldn't be sort of like a pencil skirt these days. It would have been a little bit wide, very often flowy. So if a woman would move, if she would turn around, the skirt would be naturally sort of flowing. So that was part of his design. It was part of an energetic design. Woman would be constantly connected to the energy flowing up and down into that toroidal field. So woman was literally walking around, and she was fully connected, reconnected as the tree of life. We have totally lost that,
because clothes these days, and going back to underwear, like I don't wear bras because they're so restrictive. Knickers are so restrictive. Tight jeans, tight is used to me now, just coming out with the girl stuff. Tight jeans, all the clothing is really restrictive. And just going back to the toroidal field, it made me think of Cinderella's dress, you know, the big poofy shoulders and the big skirt that depicts the flow of energy.
Yeah. Right.
I'm gonna start wearing dresses, because here's the thing, I've never worn, my mum used to say to me, I wish you were more girly. you know, because I always wear jeans or jodhpurs. I never wear dresses, or, you know, because I didn't want
But
to.
you see, I think it's a funny word, girly, right? It's kind of implies like wearing a skirt just makes us this kind of sweet, silly kind of, but that's not what it is about. Actually, a woman, and try to have that experiment. Sorry, Dan, but just maybe you can tell me if I'm correct. As a man, try to wear a skirt or a dress as a woman, not short, long one, and look at the reaction of men.
Yeah.
Not
More
not
respect.
sort of, absolutely, but not cleavages, not sort of, you know, something that's quite modest.
It shows empowerment. A man's more attracted to her because he knows that she's standing in her own power, that she doesn't have to sell herself.
You see,
And
this is Dan speaking.
The less clothing, it looks cheap. You look, and that's what it is. It's obviously I'm ex-military, so I've gone into like Middle East, and again, when you see a woman when she's fully dressed and it's just her face, you see the beauty in her face, and you don't even know what she looks like. The rest of her, and it's that hidden thing, and she carries herself better. The same with the Victorian age, the woman carries herself better, and it goes like what you're saying about clothing. It's where the heels are brought out. The heels were to disfigured women's feet, because women used to be barefooted, and again, it's to be grounded. And by disfiguring their feet, they make them narrow, they make them like deformed, and again, it's to stop that.
And again,
it's to stop that connection.
The woman, isn't it? It's sexualizing because the legs are longer. You know, men like stilettos, and
exactly,
and sexualizing the woman.
That distorted sexual energy is exactly one of the strongest mechanisms in which Matrix disconnects or deactivates that alchemy. And look at Dan, right? The first words that he used about the woman, seeing a woman wearing a skirt or a dress, a long skirt on a dress, is that it gives a feeling like she's standing in her power. That's exactly what we're talking about. So it's almost like, you know, we don't have to tell him that. He instinctively knows that, he feels that, right? So that is something that all women should perhaps think about. Where does it come from? Why a man looking at you being dressed like that? And of course, what happened in the Middle East, that's a little bit different. That's a different level of distortion. But we're talking about the kind of, you know, cultures where women had a very high standing, the ex-Slavic cultures, the Viking, the Norse cultures here up as well. Why the dresses were long? They have nothing to do with modesty. They had nothing to do with even sort of ease of movement. They had very much to do with the power of a woman. And the fact that, I mean, you know, the taboo needs to be broken. But the truth is that when women menstruated, they would not wear any sort of protection or any underwear. So the blood was literally connecting. It would have been connecting with the earth underneath. So you see that. Not only we've lost the wisdom, we've obviously lost the potency to those substances, we've lost the understanding of this whole process, and that wisdom needs to be coming back. Women need, you know, we need to break some taboos, because obviously, and look even at the menstrual blood right now, that's a taboo in itself. The menstruation has become a topic of some kind of, this is an imposition on a woman. This is something when, you know, something that preferably there should be a pill to maybe eradicate that, or, you know, there is a really bad connotation around it. Whereas this is actually the most powerful time for a woman. This is the most powerful time.
Can I just ask you what your thoughts are? Again, sorry, Dan, this is a woman thing, but the menopause, is that a constructed thing from the moon? No, for women to stop bleeding, to basically cut off, so women have got an age of where they can be alchemical, if you like.
Well, a woman, you see, in the teachings, every woman, literally from birth, every woman is a woman, right? So a woman, this whole notion of a woman as a triple goddess, the virgin, the creatrix or the mother, and the witch, the shaman, the crone. Those the triplicity here, it describes every woman regardless of an age. It's an aspect of the alchemy. It's an aspect of alchemy. So it can be represented in a way by age, but it does not mean that if I am 41, it means that I am not a witch. I do not have access to that energy because I'm too young. It's every woman has that triplicity of alchemy. However, what happens in the menopause, you see, alchemically speaking, what happens when women still menstruates, and of course, like I mentioned before, the 13 times a year, not normal, but it is what it is right now. But when woman still menstruates, in the alchemy, we say that she is still sort of charged or supported from the external energetic influx. So she's receiving this energy from Venus, from the stars. She's receiving it from the center of the galaxy. She's receiving it also from the underworld. So in a way, she's being supplied externally. So she's receiving that energy and it's accumulated inside of her. But as she goes through menopause, that is the time when that energy has been now sufficiently accumulated. So now she is like a reservoir of that dark energy, not dark in a sense of, oh my God, she's some black witch. No. Dark energy as in that 0 point energy, okay? That dark matter, that point, the void, the creation of anything. So she has now, she's now holding in this cauldron of this energy. This is why the witches has been portrayed very often as, you know, this old woman in black, white black, the void, cooking a soup, in a massive cauldron of what? That's what it is. This is this symbolic representation. So this is why quite often women will get hot flashes, because that energy, it's like literally cooking in that pot. It is all now stored in. So really practically, okay, looking at things, everything is of course inverted, because you open Instagram and all those other apps, and what you have there, some 22-year-olds, and by the time you get to 30, you're discarded. Now you're old and you're unattractive. But in reality, in terms of feminine power, the witch is the most powerful. The witch has that not just maturity, but she has that dark energy, that dark matter at hand. She has it available. So this is why the witches were burnt at the stake. Witches were the older women, not the young ones, not the 20-something years old.
Because you never hear of warlocks being burned at the stake, do you?
Right? Here it is. So you know, to all women out there who might be feeling like, oh my God, you know, I'm 50, what now for me? Nothing. Actually, please look at yourself, flip it around from a totally different perspective. You are right now becoming the most dangerous and powerful and inconvenient to the establishment, not to the government, because that operates on a very low level, okay, but literally to the very fabric of the matrix. Why? Because women are in that energy, able to access that energy, and that alchemy, this is the highest form of alchemy. They are dissolving the very literally the matrix, the code. They are dissolving the that technology and our sort of perception and experience of it, and that's transforming it.
That's really in line with, and I don't like talking about, you know, conspiratorial things, but that's actually in line with when you get to a certain age, and if you have to go into hospital, you have to sign a what's it called? Basically, if they can't revive you, if you die on the table,
disclaimer.
What my mum had to sign it because she was 65 when she passed in 2020, just as this all happened, as it happens. What's it called? What you have to sign? It's a disclaimer, but to say that you give them permission to not revive you, and the age that
Right.
I think it's over 50s.
Unreal, huh?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Just going back to that about the energy, would you say a virgin's energy is more powerful for the or
It's not,
is
it's
that a
not
myth? Because a lot of people talk about like the virgins and sacrificing a virgin. So I'm just wondering, is the virginity, keeping hold of that virginity, make it stronger for the womb, or
it's
because
I
I
know
also
exactly what you
and
mean.
I also know well that women don't just carry their own child; they carry the grandchildren as well inside of them. So their eggs in a woman is not just their children, it's their grandchildren as well. So it's like 3 generations that you carry with you. So I was wondering if being like I say, is the virginity more
It's
powerful than
so,
not?
so what we're dealing here with, it's again alchemically, we kind of have to
Mm,
unpack it a little bit. The virgin, okay, so woman's alchemy, 3 aspects: the virgin,
mm,
the creatrix, mother, and the crown, the crown, the crown, the
corona.
shaman,
Yeah.
however we want to refer. The virgin, and of course we can kind of ascribe them that the virgin is that kind of age, the first sort of years. Then we have the woman who is menstruating as the creatrix, and we have the crown at the end. But the virgin, it is more the reason why they are going after the children, after those young children and those young girls, is because the virgin energy is linked to that energy of the maiden, to that point in the womb, in the holy grail. This is the point that they have not been able to corrupt. So ultimately you would think that maybe the energy of the witch is the most attractive to go after, but actually it's not.
It's not.
The most attractive energy to go after, and the one that probably every single woman on the planet is in some way blocked in that department, is the virgin energy. And it has nothing to do with age, okay? At my age, still my virgin energy, because virgin energy is linked to certain things. Amongst other things, the virgin energy is connected to the virgin birth, to the parthenogenesis. It is connected with the eggs. It is connected with the so alchemically, this is the energy that they are desperately trying to block in us. They do not have exactly access to it, but as they perform those horrible acts on those children, on those girls, it is through that violence, through that abuse, it has effect on that point. It has effect on that energy. So this is it's not the alchemical sort of dimension that we need to look at it is a little bit, gives it a little bit different flavor to what we might think of it in that kind of sick straightforward manner. It is not so much I mean, hard for me to even comment, but it's going beyond just some kind of physical aspects here. It is going into that alchemical aspect, whereas that white energy, you see the white energy, the maiden. Why in the mythology a lot of those goddesses or the female characters, they called maidens, this maiden, that maiden, maidens looking after some oracle, maidens looking after some well, maidens here, maidens there.
They always wear white, purity.
Exactly. Well, the white is the color of the maiden. So the red, this is why, for example, Mother Mary very often portrayed in blue or in white, but Mary Magdalene will be very often portrayed with the red robe as the archetype of the mother, of the creatrix. So very much so. But the maidens, for example, in the Norse mythology, you have the 3 maidens linked to weaving the web of life, weaving the destiny, weaving the web of destiny. This is literally linked to the what's the weaving of the DNA. So this energy is that energy very much linked to the DNA, to the original codes of creation, to the eggs. So they are trying to get to that very, very sort of bottom, if you like. They are trying to get in every way. They're messing with our DNA on the surface, but they're trying to sort of break the code to get to that from, you know, from the back door, if you like. So weaving the web of life, and that's what women used to do. So women in her virgin energy, not at the virgin age, in her virgin alchemical energy, she is the weaver of the web of life, meaning an alchemical woman is able to weave outside of the matrix, outside of astrology. So she's weaving her life how she wants, not what the code predicts for her, not what's predetermined by this matrix. So you see, this is why the heroes raped maidens. Why? To block that point, to block that ability. So it's alchemically, when you kind of decipher that alchemically, there is much more under the surface than meets the eye. So it is the energy linked to literally the DNA, the codes of creation, but also weaving the our own destiny. So being able to operate outside of the predetermined, predestined program that the matrix would have been trying to stream upon you. No, you weave your own. So a woman, this is why the women would have been the weavers of the web of life, right? That's that aspect, this is what the woman does.
I'm just sat here thinking, where do men fit into this all? I know, like, from, you know, you're done with Dan, you don't need it anymore. No, I'm kidding. I know that. And I like to throw little jokes in. Any other questions, Dan? Because we've had you for the last...
No, I'm good. I know we've had it for 2 hours.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, is anybody going to actually hang around until now? Because we've been going on for like 2.5 hours.
I think so, Ola. That's, you know, you've opened my, even though I've watched some of your podcasts, you've really opened my eyes, because of course me and Dan we've had our own questions that other podcasters haven't asked, and yeah, you stunned me with the information. Yeah, it's been amazing. I really thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you all. I say I was interested when you're talking about the feminine alchemy side of it. When I've been watching your podcast, I was getting mixed up. You was on about the energy, but you're not. You're on about the alchemy, and it is, like you say, it is what you are. You females are creators. Imagination, everything is creative in that alchemy, and there is so, like you said, I didn't even till you just mentioned it then about the maidens, and even when you look into all history, like they're protected by dragons and stuff like that in towers, like they've always been made out like they've been trapped, and they've needed a man to rescue themselves, but they don't.
Exactly.
They can do it themselves, and this is the mixture that, and it's not to be like a feminist side. This is what, again, people might mistaken with the feminine alchemy. It's not feminist. It's
absolutely not.
Women
absolutely
have to take responsibility for who they are, because they forgot, and that's the difference. It's not an attack on men. It's it's to realize, hang on a minute, I forgot who I am.
Exactly.
And that's I think that's the main thing from this whole podcast, is that women need to remember that who you actually are. And
exactly.
And it's, you know, and it's also going back quickly to the feminine movement. People are proud when, you know, women are proud. I'm a feminist. People are proud of being feminist when they've got actually no idea of what it actually means. You know.
Well, you know, I think that what we need to remember is that all those kind of movements, they are designed, right? So feminist movements does not come from women, it comes from CIA, trying to cater to a certain, again, feeling, energy, vibe in the air, whereabout women are coming and fighting men, because feminists are pretty much women fighting men, right? Yeah, it's supposedly fighting for rights, but no, it's not. It's kind of, it's a very combative energy. I have nothing to do with the feminists. I'm not interested in any movement, right? It's a CIA controlled movement, so it is absolutely there on purpose, just like New Age, another CIA controlled movement. So I am not subscribing to anything of that. And feminine alchemy has nothing to do with sort of fighting men, or you know, us being better, men being, no, it is just like comparing apples and pears. This is an apple and this is a pear. We both have different flavor and different roles, right? So this is what I'm advocating, is that return
getting the fire firing inside again. That's the alchemy, firing up inside.
The feminine movement is a movement again to emasculate women, to take them away from being women, whereas they're proud of the feminine movement.
Exactly. Yeah, which is you know, this is the cunning practice of the CIA, right? To kind of give you something that on the surface supposedly is the solution to your problems, but actually in a very, very cunning way, it also delivers another agenda, which is let's make sure that these women get kicked away from their feminine side, that true feminine side, as far as possible. Let's make them fighting, let's make them angry, let's make them you know, controlling, combative, and that's gonna be the result that they are looking. And mind you, what kind of behaviors are these?
Just talking, and I know, well, I always do this. I start to end a podcast, and then other things to start. Conversation just flows. just going back to feeling and knowing something is right or wrong. Even before I got into what I've gotten into over the last 3 years, I've never followed narratives like the feminine movement, like the ice bucket challenge, and because I've always known that it's just some kind of, you know. So again, it's about listening to yourself and going back to what you say. I mean, I am quite guilty of logicalizing and analyzing things and using my mind an awful lot. But again, I think that's part of the movement of we're overstimulated all the time. You know, we are drawn to this overstimulation. Again, that's part of the canny plan, isn't it? So we're not listening to our internal.
Absolutely. And you know, the plan has always been to keep you busy, to keep you distracted, to keep you focused on everything else, and including, you know, that's manipulation is extended. It's not just the TV, it's not just the radio, it is extended into the so-called alternative movement. So in the alternative movement, you have people fighting with each other, death for life, whether Earth is flat or round, whether, you know, there's gonna be a reset in 10 years or in 5 years or in 30 years, and fighting each other, whether, you know, the history 5,000 years ago was like this or like that. It's so you know, we have to be really, really mindful how much destruction is there for the so-called awakened. So we really need the awakening from the awakening, and really return to ourselves. So you know, I'm a very awkward kind of guest to come to a lot of interviews, because when names are dropped, I have no idea who those people are. When events are mentioned, I have no idea what happened. I'm just a simple person living at the end of the freaking world, you know, in the very cold place, and I'm just minding my own business. From time to time, I'll come out from the shell, and I'll have a beautiful discussion with two amazing people like you guys, and then I go back to my shell and I mind my business. So that is pretty much what pisses them off very much, which I can see on my, for example, Facebook account, because I have thousands of people following and observing me, and nobody ever sees anything that I put out. So yeah, I know that I'm quite an annoying person to the establishment, but you know, where the impact happened most is actually not online. So every woman should also remember that our biggest job right now in the current time is not to necessarily come out and scream and share and talk about those things. Every single one of us, because it takes only one, every single one of us should focus primarily on the grail and making sure that the alchemy can be delivered. So have a look at your life, have a look at where you give away power, how you treat yourself, how you allow others to treat you. Are you trying to play the hero in your own life, trying to rescue everybody else, and etc., etc.? Because we're talking effectively about those kind of behaviors. Or are you, selling yourself, basically? Are you selling your body in any way? Are you selling yourself as a person in any way? Are you dishonoring and disrespecting yourself in any way? Are you giving away power to religions? Are you in any cults? I will tell you more, and I will piss off everybody now, but are you going to some development workshops and consciousness expansion workshops, etc., which is another trap? Very often another trap. Very often
it's giving your power away.
Very new agey, right?
Everybody's turning to Jesus now and religion, and if you don't follow Jesus, and I actually commented something, you're just giving your power away to this external force when it's actually within you.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely.
But yeah, I think I don't want to take up any more of your time. I'm getting cold as well. The wind's starting to pick up. We've got a storm heading our way in good old Cumbria. It's been absolutely amazing, Ola, and I think you're a beautiful person, and thank you so much.
Bless you. Thank you.
Same for me,
amazing time.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'd love to have another chat in the future further along to see where things have progressed, and again, and just to see where people even worldwide are developing in the future, and like you say, like where the next event could happen, because like you say, this thing's mechanics are moving in both directions, and like you say, the two paths, and it would be good to have a chat further down the line and see where the mechanics are.
I would love to. I had an amazing time with both of you.
Thank
such
you.
Such a lovely energy here.
Just to plug Ola, she's got a website, self-mastery, is it .com?
It's selfmasteryquest.com.
That's right. And you're doing, and I would actually be interested in coming on to one of your events in Norway, because one, I'd love to visit Norway. Sweden's actually a place I'm looking to buy somewhere. Move to. I didn't want to put it out there, but maybe I should be. But Sweden's a place. Norway, again, maybe. There's a lot of logistics, of course. I've got the horses. I certainly don't want to leave them behind. But I would love to come on one of your courses. But of course, as you can see, the cats have wanted to feed, and I've got cats, I've got the horses, so it's difficult for me to get away.
Oh, it's amazing. I love that.
No, you've got Bengals, haven't you?
I have two. I have two Bengals. So I think there was a bit of an appearance made by one of them here for a minute, but overall, I'm surprised they've been so well behaved. Normally, they need to be the star of the show. So yeah, I love that you have horses, and this is my dream. If I could have a farm here with some rescue sanctuary type of
me too. You're talking my language.
Well, think about it. Here I am in Norway already. You think you're moving?
Absolutely. Do you know what? Definitely. But I am definitely interested in your course. I don't think I'd maybe be able to make the winter one. But who knows? So yes, selfmasteryquest.com. You do astrological readings as well?
I do, yeah. So I do sort of two types of consultations. One is, as I call it, the decode, the code. So this is where where I use the astrology, numerology. I use different types of numerology. There is also a method based on Kabbalistic tradition that I use, and that one does not require the time of birth, so we can extract quite a lot from that one without having the time of birth. And yeah, so that's the code. And then the other set is the alchemy. And there I sort of specifically divide between ladies and men, so that I can kind of cover specifics of what's for the ladies and things specifically that they can actually do, versus men and sort of their role and the kind of grail night context, if you like, so a little bit that Cathar type of take on it, and explain also in that context of texts, mythology, etc., what is the role of the man next to an alchemical woman, or overall in the context of alchemy. So yeah, those are available. And in November I'll be hosting an event. It is not a retreat, okay? This is an event where I am just inviting everybody who feels brave enough to come and face the Arctic winter, which, by the way, is not terrible. To actually have the opportunity to come to this place. Honestly, I have never ever felt energy as strong as in this region where I live. This is the ancient Hyperborea as per the local legends. So there are trees of Eden here. So those very tall giant trees that were cut down, you can see them very clearly. There are birthing grounds. There are sort of grounds of very strong toroidal fields. And back to the Celtic tradition, the wells, right? What are the wells and the well maidens? We have the sites with those wells to the underworld, so you can really feel that energy. I had an event in the summer in June, so that was only open to the ladies. This one is open to both men and ladies. We have a slightly different theme because obviously that's gonna be winter, bit more hibernating theme, but we will be also having a visit from a Sami shaman. So that's that these are the native people of the north of the Arctic region here in Scandinavia. So she will be also sharing a little bit on the cosmology, a little bit on the sort of mythology and their take on things, and also she will be available obviously for some sort of private consultations or whatnot. So yeah, and of course, you know, a few things to do here and there. Viking sites, Viking museum.
Oh, that's right down the street. That is Viking.
Yeah.
Well,
just a place for people to just.
Well, if you ever need a mycologist, I'm here. If you need a mushroom expert, that's my background.
Oh, brilliant! Brilliant. Probably something for the summer then.
Yeah, if you ever need a mycologist, just let me know. I'm sold.
Dan and Dan's partner, we went mushroom picking, didn't we? Yesterday, yesterday, the day before, whenever it was. But have you been over that bridge that goes over the is it the Atlantic? The road of the Atlantic.
The bridge.
No way. The road that goes over the Atlantic.
Oh, that road. I've been on parts of that road, yes, and the region where I would argue that the region where I live and where I organize this event is on the UNESCO list. So this is one of the most beautiful places on earth. And honestly, when you come in, you can see the change in sort of topography and in the landscape. You can see how it's changing from the sort of mainland onto the islands. It's like you are traveling to a different dimension. It's a totally different experience. It's really amazing. And we get a lot of tourists here in the winter for the Northern Lights, and in the summer for just you know, for the 24/7 sun. But it's really worth it.
Beautiful. Well, I'm gonna not recording off now. So thank you guys if you got this far. I'm sure you have. And we'll speak to you all soon.